Hollywood's golden age, the era of charm, tuxedos, and glamour. But behind the glittering premieres and flawless smiles, the film sets of old Los Angeles hid something far more primal. Behind the camera, tempers flared hotter than the spotlights. Egos collided harder than car chases. And sometimes, when words failed, fists took over. These weren't choreographed punches meant for the screen. These were real brawls, fueled by pride, jealousy, and a cocktail of whiskey and rage. Today, we uncover the 10 most insane fistfights in Golden Age Hollywood, moments when the legends of cinema dropped the masks and the real men and women beneath the makeup emerge swinging. That if this kind of story touches your heart, if you're someone who cares about truth, responsibility, and speaking up for the voiceless, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who should hear it. Let's get started. Number 10. Frank Sinatra versus Mario Lanza, the crooner clash. It happened at a private Hollywood party in the late 1950s, a glittering event filled with industry elites, music producers, and too much gin. Frank Sinatra, the self-proclaimed chairman of the board, arrived cool and collected. Across the room stood Mario Lanza, the operatic tenor known for his thunderous voice and even louder temper. What began as playful banter quickly spiraled out of control. Lanza, tipsy and bold, mocked Sinatra's crooner style and called him a lounge act in a tuxedo. Sinatra, who never tolerated insults about his talent or his height, warned him once. When Lanza laughed again, Sinatra's fist connected squarely with his jaw. Glasses shattered. Guests screamed. The band stopped playing mid-note. According to a musician present that night, Lanza went down like a ton of bricks. Sinatra didn't even spill his drink. Within hours, the studio press machine went into overdrive, covering up the story to protect both stars' images. Yet, that night exposed the raw tension between two worlds, the old-school opera purists and the swaggering new wave of American pop. Number 9. Humphrey Bogart versus John Huston, the director's right hook. They were close friends, creative partners, and drinking buddies. But during the filming of The African Queen, 1951, friendship met its breaking point. Bogart was the brooding icon of Hollywood masculinity. John Huston, the legendary director, was as tough as the men he filmed. Together, they made cinematic history. But one grueling day on set in the African heat, tempers erupted. Huston accused Bogart of forgetting his lines. Bogart fired back that Huston couldn't direct himself out of a paper bag. What followed, according to crew members, was a wrestling match between two lions in the mud. They rolled down the embankment throwing punches. One cameraman recalled, "The crew just stood there. Nobody wanted to be the one to break up Bogart and Huston." Minutes later, they emerged filthy, laughing, and bleeding, then went back to filming like nothing happened. That was Hollywood friendship in its purest, roughest form. Bleed, laugh, drink, repeat. Number 8. Bette Davis versus Joan Crawford, the War of Baby Jane. Some battles aren't fought with fists, they're fought with weapons far sharper. When Whatever Happened to Baby Jane began filming in 1962, Bette Davis and Joan Crawford brought decades of rivalry with them. Davis, the no-nonsense perfectionist, Crawford, the glamorous diva obsessed with image. Behind the scenes, the set turned into a psychological boxing ring. Davis reportedly placed weights in her pockets to make her on-screen shove more brutal. During one scene, she actually struck Crawford's head hard enough to require stitches. Crawford retaliated in her own way, by slipping rocks into her costume pockets during a scene where Davis had to drag her across the floor. Davis strained her back for real. A crew member later said, "It wasn't acting anymore. It was war disguised as cinema." The film became a masterpiece of venom, its realism fueled by genuine hatred. Ironically, both women earned career revivals, proof that in Hollywood, sometimes the fight sells the show. Number 7. Kirk Douglas versus Anatol Litvac, when the actor punched the director. Kirk Douglas was known for his intensity, both on and off the screen. During the making of The Strange Love of Martha Ivers, 1946, director Anatol Litvac pushed Douglas to his breaking point. Litvac, a perfectionist, was notorious for humiliating actors to squeeze emotion from them. One day, after a particularly cruel tirade in front of the entire crew, Douglas snapped. Witnesses say Douglas lunged across the set, fist connecting with Litvac's nose. The director hit the floor, stunned but alive, and in true Hollywood fashion, got up, wiped the blood, and said, "Now that's emotion, Kirk. Let's do the scene again." The fight was quietly buried by Paramount, but Douglas later admitted that the confrontation changed the power dynamic. From that day on, he was no longer just an actor. He was a man who demanded respect. Number 6, Lee Marvin versus Marlon Brando, the Tijuana Barroom Brawl. In 1958, two of Hollywood's toughest men found themselves in a dusty Tijuana bar, both deep in tequila and ego. Lee Marvin, a decorated World War II veteran, was known for his rough edges. Marlon Brando, already a legend, had that dangerous, magnetic calm that provoked men like Marvin. Accounts differ on what started it. Some say a woman, others say a sarcastic joke about acting styles. But within seconds, chairs were flying. They destroyed half the bar, said a stunt coordinator who later worked with Marvin. No stunt doubles, no script, just chaos. Local police were called, but by the time they arrived, the two men had already shaken hands, bought another round, and toasted to a proper night out. It was the kind of violent camaraderie only men of that era seemed to understand. Number 5, Laurence Olivier versus Dustin Hoffman, Method Meets Madness. This clash wasn't about fists, it was a psychological duel that nearly turned physical. During the filming of Marathon Man 1976, Laurence Olivier represented the classical British acting school, precision, control, elegance. Dustin Hoffman, meanwhile, was Hollywood's new face of method acting, immersive, obsessive, unpredictable. Hoffman reportedly stayed awake for 3 days to appear genuinely exhausted in a scene. Olivier, unimpressed, sneered, "My dear boy, why don't you just try acting?" Tempers flared. Hoffman snapped back, "Because I care about truth." The tension reached a boiling point when Hoffman's erratic behavior disrupted the shoot schedule. Olivier, red-faced, slammed his hand on the table and reportedly shouted, "You're not acting, you're being impossible." Crew members swore they saw Hoffman clench his fists, but cooler heads prevailed before punches flew. Still, that invisible fight between two philosophies, method and mastery, became one of the defining creative collisions in film history. Number 4, John Wayne versus Ward Bond, the Brotherhood Brawl. No, one embodied rugged American masculinity, quite like John Wayne and Ward Bond. Friends, drinking companions, and occasional rivals, their friendship was as volatile as it was loyal. One night in the 1940s, during a party thrown for studio executives, a heated argument over politics turned ugly. Wayne called Bond a loudmouth reactionary. Bond fired back with something far worse, a jab about Wayne's lack of military service during World War II. That was it. Wayne, red, with fury, tackled Bond through a wooden table. The two men rolled across the floor, scattering glass and laughter. Other actors tried to separate them, but gave up, knowing these two needed to settle it their way. By morning, both men showed up on set with black eyes and a stronger friendship. Bond later joked, "I've never taken a punch that made me prouder." Number 3, Charlton Heston versus Yul Brynner, Clash of the Titans. During the filming of The Ten Commandments, 1956, two of the biggest egos in Hollywood collided under the Egyptian sun. Yul Brynner, already insecure about Heston's towering physique, demanded camera angles that favored him. Heston, proud and principled, refused. One afternoon, during a heated argument about blocking, Brynner accused Heston of trying to steal the scene. Heston laughed and said, "You can't steal what God gave me." Brynner lunged. Heston blocked. Crew members rushed in before the punches could land, but not before the two men had to be physically restrained. Director Cecil B. DeMille reportedly shouted, "Save it for the Red Sea. Gentlemen." Both actors finished the film professionally, but never spoke again. their on-screen tension as Moses and Pharaoh remains one of cinema's greatest unintentional performances. Number 2, James Dean versus Nick Adams, the Rebels' last fight. James Dean's short life was filled with rebellion, and not all of it stayed on screen. During the filming of Rebel Without a Cause, 1955, Dean grew frustrated with his co-star Nick Adams, who often bragged about their friendship to the press. One night, outside a Hollywood diner, Dean confronted him. The argument escalated fast. Dean accused Adams of using him for fame. Adams fired back with an insult about Dean's fake, deep persona. Dean shoved him. Adams swung back. For a moment, the icon of teenage angst wasn't a movie star. He was just a furious young man fighting to be understood. Witnesses say the fight ended with both men laughing, bruised but closer. Sadly, it would be one of Dean's last nights out before his fatal crash. The fight became part of the myth, proof that his rebellion wasn't just an act. Number 1, Errol Flynn versus David Niven, swashbucklers at war. Errol Flynn, the original Hollywood bad boy. David Niven, the charming English gentleman. The two became close friends during their early careers, sharing parties, lovers, and adventures. But during one drunken night in the 1940s, the friendship took a sharp turn. According to Niven's memoir, Flynn had borrowed his prized car without permission and returned it dented and covered in lipstick. When Niven confronted him, Flynn laughed it off. "You can't hold your liquor or your women, David," Flynn sneered. Niven, normally mild, threw the first punch. Flynn responded in kind. The fight spilled out onto Sunset Boulevard, two tuxedoed actors brawling like pirates in front of stunned onlookers. By morning, they were both patched up and back on set. Niven later said, "Errol and I shared a friendship built on fists and forgiveness. That was the golden age in a nutshell, where grudges ended with a drink, not a lawsuit. These weren't just bar fights or drunken scraps. They were explosions of ego from an era that celebrated passion above all else." In modern Hollywood, stars hire PR teams to bury their scandals. But in the golden age, fights were badges of honor, proof that the gods of the silver screen still bled like mortal men. Behind every perfect smile was a bruise. Behind every award, a rivalry. When we watch those black and white classics today, we see elegance and grace. What we don't see are the moments between takes, the shouting matches, the broken glass, the fists that flew in dressing rooms and bars. Because Hollywood, at its heart, was always a war between dreams and demons. And sometimes those dreams punch back,